Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's version of Soul Meets Strategy. Diana Lidstone here, and next door, here's my partner in crime, Denise Frenette. And we are here to talk about women entrepreneurs who are, maybe stuck in doing it all boss. They are the doers, they are the leaders, but they spend most of their time doing everything in their business rather than leading their business and being that empowered CEO. So today's topic, drum roll please, is all about burning old beliefs. And, one of the things that I have for many years worked on is my own, use the word mindset, my own beliefs that about success, my own beliefs around the words that we say, the thoughts, the 7 inches between the ears, as they say. And so I welcome all of you to this conversation that we're going to have. I'd love for you to also participate. Those who are watching, comment, #live, #replay. And I'll start the conversation off by sharing a little story, my personal story. So this is years ago. I was part of a mastermind and we'd had our session, and this was when we did things live and in person. The organizers or the leader of the mastermind pulled me apart and said, "Diana, would you stay behind, please?" And I'm going, okay, what did I do? Mm-hmm. And there was this conversation about why I wasn't progressing, why my business didn't have momentum. And they said, well, Diana, you have this fear. And I went, fear? What fear? And they said, well, there's 2 kinds of fear. There's fear of failure, and that's not you. And then there's fear of success. And I kind of, I'll be honest, I got my back up a little bit and said, what do you mean I'm afraid of success, right? Like, who the heck would ever be afraid of success? Well, after we unpacked this for a while, and after I thought about it, the truth of the matter was that my fear of success came from the thought pattern that I had been exposed to, that success meant I had to work long, hard hours. And the truth was, at that point, I was already in my 60s. I didn't want to work long, hard hours anymore. I wanted things to be easy. So success and working long, hard hours, it just didn't, come together, and it didn't align. And so I was struggling in my business. And this fear of success was certainly one of the reasons. Now, Denise, I don't know if you have your own story around something like that.
Well, in regards to old beliefs, what we tend to believe, what we've been taught, what we've seen, even if you weren't technically taught, what we've seen growing up. I know I remember seeing my parents, my father, successful businessman, work. Long hours, long hours. My mother was a business owner, long hours. And so I grew up thinking, to be successful or to reach at least some form of a success level here, you have to really, really work hard. Now, I remember years back, not that long ago, I'm going to say, 7 years ago, in my wellness clinic, I left on vacation for, I think it was a 10-day vacation, went to Mexico. And God, was I stressed. So stressed about this. I was going to leave for 10 days. I'm telling you, the place is going to fall apart. And I was going to disconnect. Like, I had to disconnect. Mm-hmm. And so I got everything ready before, everything was organized. And I was very worried that my numbers, my sales, were going to go down.
Yeah, your revenue.
Well, I was gone at the beach for 10 days drinking pina coladas.
Yep.
And I came back and I didn't look at anything over there. I came back and my sales went up when I was gone. So there were a few things that happened there. Number one, I was happy. My first reaction was, okay, wait a minute. What happened? This is awesome. My sales went up and I wasn't even around to influence this. Okay. The number two thing that happened is I was slightly, I don't know if the word insulted or slightly irked, because I realized the team did better when I was gone. And that really made me revisit this idea that I always had to be present, like physically present, that I'd always had to be working at it for me to get the numbers.
So I want to, one of the things that I've learned is the words that we say are a reflection of what's going on up here. And so I have heard entrepreneurs, women business owners say, well, I should be able to I, should be able to do this by myself. I should be able to, fill in the blank. And I should be able to do this all by myself. And yet they should be able to let the team run with it, right? As opposed to dabbling in the everyday running of the business, lead the team as opposed to,
Yeah, and I'm wondering to what extent, I'll speak for myself, that I definitely have done. Still, once in a blue moon, that creeps up, right? I should be able to, as a successful woman, business owner, I've proved myself, and I should be able to. And so it makes you really wonder, why is that? Why is that? Why do we feel that need to constantly prove that we could do it all? When in reality, I think we all know, at least the ones that have enough experience, it doesn't work that way. That leads to burnout. Those are old ways of thinking.
Yeah. But we've been so conditioned.
Yes.
Over the years, culturally, whatever it happens to be, that, the Wonder Woman syndrome, right? We've got to, we should be able to be Wonder Woman and have it all.
And we've wanted to be Wonder Woman and Superwoman. We've wanted to do that.
Yeah.
And I think that we are discovering that the superpower, okay, behind Wonder Woman, but behind all of that, I believe goes way beyond our ability, period. So we're not supposed to do it all. We are supposed to delegate. We are supposed to
ask for help.
Absolutely. Anything else other than that is I think, a recipe for overworking. Yeah.
So I'm curious, those people that are watching us live, because I know there are some of you, have you ever felt this Wonder Woman syndrome? I need to, I deserve to have it all. Yes, we do, but it doesn't mean that we have to do it all by ourselves. So I'm curious, and I'd love to hear some comments from those people who are watching. Have you ever got caught up in this Wonder Woman, Superwoman syndrome? Or maybe it's not part of your cultural, whatever it happens to be, but I'm curious. So I'd love to hear from those people who are listening, #live or #replay.
Now, I want to mention, okay, as we're speaking, I thought the old beliefs, because I remember, again, looking at my mother, looking at my father, and they were team leaders. My mother had employees. My father had employees in a team, okay? And the way they did it then is they were very, it was almost like a dictatorship,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
don't do it, you're gone, you're fired. That's a leader.
Yeah.
And what we've seen in the last, I'm going to say 15, whatever, 20 years is a really big shift where leaders have shown more vulnerability, okay? More understanding, more
Yeah.
vulnerability. There's more teamwork together. So, with that said, though, I do want to talk about that fine line in regards to vulnerability. Some individuals, and I know this because one of my clients, we had to deal with that because what happened with her, because of what she was dealing in her personal life, she brought that up to her team so that they would understand why she's not as present, okay? Why she is not as organized and so on and so forth. And she felt so bad. And she started sharing her personal story, like from her personal life to her team.
Right.
And at first, of course, oh my goodness, poor you, and all of that. And eventually, what happened though, unfortunately, her team got tired of it. Her team actually, she lost some of her team members.
Because
They
they lose trust in
her
where
ability
are we going with this? Are you going to stay as the victim? Because she's presenting a victim personality at that point rather than a victorious personality.
that's
So,
right.
yeah.
And so there's a fine line there in regards to that new vulnerability talk that is out there. And a leader, like it or not, has to lead.
Yeah.
And yes, is it important to have a certain level of vulnerability so that you can understand your team? Absolutely, of course. With that said, you have to lead with the level of motivation you want them to have. You have to lead with a certain amount of organized way of seeing things and so on and so forth. And if you're going through something personal, that's when you get coaching, or that is when you delegate. And that is when you utilize other avenues, not necessarily always bring everything forth to the table in front of your team.
So I think you brought up a great point. Uh, Coaching. I have, in all the years that I have had my coaching business, I personally have had a coach
Yes.
every single moment, every single year, because I wouldn't have been able to overcome and change those limiting beliefs that I'd had if a coach hadn't helped me, number one, make me aware of it. Number two, figure out a way to make that shift and see those things that were actually holding me back. And time and time again, a coach isn't just about, showing you the pathway forward. It's about what's holding you back. And I think you also mentioned, um, how does a coach also keep us, what's the word I'm looking for? So in that story that you were talking about of the client,
Yeah.
she could share that vulnerability with a coach
Yes,
as opposed to sharing it with the team. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Exactly. And so, because every single team member has a personal life,
yes,
and if every single team member comes to work, comes to the organization, comes to whatever, with all of their personal baggage right there at the table, how much work will get done? How will they find solutions for the business? Where will it go? It doesn't work that way. So, as a team leader,
yeah,
we're obviously showing up with the attitude, with the work ethics, and all of that you want them to bring to the table.
Exactly. So you have to demonstrate those characteristics that you want them to follow.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know that when I know I did this myself, and years ago, and when I was going through grieving,
Mhm.
okay,
Mhm.
and my team felt it. My team felt it. And I went through a period where I did not go for coaching. I did not, because again, I went back to old patterns of being Superwoman.
Yeah, I should be able to figure this out, right?
Yes, it's just grieving.
Yeah, it's
Everybody
just
loses family members. I can do this.
yeah.
And that was a really tough lesson to learn. And through that lesson, what I learned, okay, which was a hard one for me, I don't know, just a hard one, was grace. Ah,
Mm.
that word, grace. I had to have grace for me to start. I had to have grace, understanding that I don't always have it together perfectly. No.
Give yourself permission.
Yes, 100%. And I fought that. I fought that for a long time. And when I finally had enough respect for the word grace, when I finally learned the hard way, scraping my knees and elbows, wow, what a difference. What a difference. I was able to be there for my team with grace, okay, and respect, um, in such a different way. Such a different way. I showed up with so much more energy, so much more confidence once I addressed that
So
ability to have grace.
so give us an example, if you would, of that. Because to me, these are words that maybe some people who are listening today interpret those words as slightly different as to what you mean. So give us
So,
an example of, how we would, use grace and respect to overcome some of these older beliefs.
so when I was going through my grieving process, I was not as physically present, okay, in my wellness clinic. I was not as organized. I just wasn't as there. And again, I was going through my superwoman phase where I didn't delegate. And I was dropping the balls. Now, with that said, and I was extremely hard on myself, extremely hard. I saw it as failure. I couldn't keep
Mhm.
up. And it
Mhm.
was failure after failure, is what I saw. And with that came even more stubbornness. The harder I was on myself, the more I said, enough, just get it done, just get it done, just get it done. And I kept on in such a harsh way.
We keep going, right? And we hit this wall and we go, "Oh, I
And
can get through it. I can get through it."
And when I finally kind of broke down, not in front of everybody, but on my own, and I realized, what is this? Why am I being so hard on myself? Don't get me wrong. Then I knew, and I actually did go for coaching and all of that. It's old patterns of behavior, old
Mhm.
belief systems that when you're tired, when you're not on the ball, guess what's going to come back? Those old patterns come back, and they
Yeah,
can
and
take you by surprise.
they come back easily and quickly, don't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so as I started having more grace, now that is a big word, that ability to understand that you're just a normal human being, okay, who is dealing with things that so many others deal with as well. And you can't do it on your own. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to do it on your own.
And when you think about it, right? In the past, in, pre whatever, we would have had a larger family unit we would have had grandparents, we would have had, maybe even great grandparents, and we would have shared with those. They would have helped us take up the slack in not being present or whatever. But that's not the reality of today.
No, it is not at all.
And we are by ourselves. And so coaching is one way to help us become aware of those old patterns, how to shift those old patterns. And, it's what goes on. The 7 inches between our ears is very often
make or break you.
Yes, exactly.
And it's when I spoke to another business owner, and I met up with another business owner, not for the sake of speaking to him about what I was going through, just because we were just meeting up and having coffee, and he started sharing what he had gone through. And I sat there, and a very successful businessman. Mm-hmm. And I just sat there, and we're friends, and we had never had this conversation. And I realized, what? He's gone through exactly what I'm going through. And it was through his just happened to be sharing this monumental information with me that really brought light to it. And so whoever listens to this podcast later on, whether you're live right now or whether you listen to it later on, I want you to take at least that away with you today. Reach out, okay? Old beliefs systems are old, okay? We change. Everything shifts.
Yeah.
And so if you are struggling with balancing that personal life, and we are going to talk about that, by the way, next week.
That's right.
Life and business life, how to balance that and really show up in a way that benefits both, okay? If you are struggling and you need to reach out, then reach out. It could literally, and it doesn't mean a 1-year program or anything. Sometimes it's just a few words that can totally shift your way of viewing things.
Yeah.
So it is important to have the courage to say, hey, I can't do it all on my own. And it is important to either go for coaching, speak to other business owners, collaborate with others so that you can learn from others.
So just before we go, because our time, our half hour is coming to an end, I want to ask you about your guides. Because you're the soul and I'm the strategy. And I think people know, I don't know what strategy is, but when you and I first met, I didn't understand where your guides, how that all works, what it does, etc. And so I think there's a really, this is a perfect time. So
now, first of all, let me just quickly say that I do believe we all have, I'm going to call them spirit guides, okay, that have been created, assigned to us since conception. So I believe that everything is energy. This pen is energy. My body is energy. My thoughts are energy, and so on and so forth. I believe. No, anyway. So with that said, the minute you are conceived, that is a new form of energy. And with that new form of energy comes a universal energy that is just for you. Spirit guides, if you want to call them that, okay? And so they are now attached to you, energetically speaking, and they are here to guide you. Universal energy there to guide you. So
I'm going to stop. Could I, because I'm not the spirit guide kind of person, but could we call this intuition?
That is absolutely part of it.
Part of it. Okay.
I'm always careful with saying things like trusting your gut instinct, because
Right.
our
No.
perception of what might feel lucky, okay, our perception of what might be beautiful. Oh, I think he is the perfect man for me. But oops, I've got like major dysfunctional old belief systems in my brain. So we really got to be careful with the gut instinct, okay? And that in itself could be a whole other topic, but
Right.
whatever. And so the way I would bring in my spirit guides or God or whatever word you want to utilize, these are all man made words, okay?
Right.
And so I know that I now have learned to trust in this universal energy, in my guides. And what I mean by that is every single morning I will meditate, I will pray, I will speak to them. And by the way, Diana, even if you've never been aware that you've got guides or don't really believe in it or whatever it is, or don't really connect that way, don't worry about it. They're still there. You don't need to be aware that they're there for them to be doing their job. Okay. Now, what happens is if you do acknowledge, which I encourage everybody to do, what is there to lose by you just saying, okay, I acknowledge they're there. Okay. By acknowledging that you are somehow connected, it brings in that much more. It's like having the super internet. Okay. It brings you that much more closer and connected to universal knowledge. And so I bring that in to everything that I do, every decision that I make. And yes, is there gut instinct that I follow? Yes, I do.
Sorry
Now,
about that. There we are. We lost connection for a second. Or yeah. Anyway, let's go. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more.
What I do recommend is for individuals to start exploring that there is a connection. And whether you want to call that the ability to manifest, okay? Well, the ability to manifest, you have to believe that there's an energetic force that actually works with you, that is part of who you are. And I bring all of that in when I'm dealing with business, dealing with coaching, and all of that. Absolutely.
Right. So can you give us an example? So, for instance, let's say you're expecting to go into a coaching call. How would you, what would you do?
Honestly, I keep it really simple with my guides, okay? Because that's just my personality type. Literally, before every session, before every podcast, before anything that I do, I will sit here, I will connect to them. I'm always connected, but I connect to them with purpose. And so let's say I'm about to have a session with Karen, okay? Or with Bob. And I'll say, oh, I will connect. First, I will quiet. I will do a breathing exercise anyway. And then I will ask them, okay, what does Bob need from me today? What are the words? And when I say from me, technically it's not from me, it's from his guides who will be communicating through me. Universal knowledge connecting. And I will simply say, what is it that he needs to hear so that he can move forward with more clarity, with more confidence, and so on and so forth, depending on what it is that we're working on. I will bring that in regards to having clarity on their business quarterlies. I will bring that in regards to how they're dealing with in their private lives. 100%. I do this every single time. I do this at least 4 times a day. Before I go shopping, before I walk into the mall, I connect all the time. And so it's a way of life for me.
Way of life. I love it.
Yeah.
So we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank those people who have been listening and encourage them to comment. We are working on something called a VIP backstage pass. which we hope to have ready for next week, which we will have some goodies for those of you who are supporting us here.
Okay.
So just keep watching for that, please, the VIP Backstage Pass. And as I said, my intention is to have the link ready and all the documentation and everything ready for our next show. So,
and speaking of the next show, I just want to give everyone the heads up. I am absolutely looking forward to next week. Next week is about managing energy. We are going to talk about energy, the managing of energy for your personal life, okay, and for your business life. Managing energy so you don't burn out, managing energy so that you don't give everything just to your personal life or just to your business, and really finding a balance and how to get energized by it all.
and I'm going to talk about bandwidth, so which is managing your energy in your business. And so we're going to talk about that.
I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. So
absolutely. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. I hope you benefit from our little tidbits and our little talks like this. And even if you're hearing this after the fact, by all means, that's awesome. Try to make it next week. I love the idea of talking about energy. And so thank you very, very much for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you again next week.
Thanks so much, everyone. Take care. Bye for now.